Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert. You're listening to Incredible Life Creator Podcast. My guest today is Teresa Leet. Teresa Leet lives in Maryland with her husband, Ron. They have a blended family of 5 adult children and 3 with one on the way, grandchildren. She enjoys the visits with them and gets refreshed in the empty nest afterwards. At the age of 52, she felt the Lord leading her to go to school. She enrolled in and was accepted to Emmanuel Christian Seminary in Johnson City, Tennessee, the same town Darius Rucker sings about. She graduated with a Master of Arts in Christian Ministry in 2019, proving to herself and her daughters it is never too late to go back to school. Teresa has served in the financial services industry for over 20 years and currently runs her own financial coaching business. She takes what she has learned by living it and helps people develop plans and strategies to achieve financial wholeness and wellness. She loves to learn, loves to read, and she and her husband can be found on a golf course when the weather agrees. Welcome to the podcast, Teresa.
Thank you, Dr. Kimberley. I'm glad to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so it sounds like you've had quite a journey. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you and where it started?
Oh gosh. Okay, I'm not going to take everybody back to when I was born on a Marine base in Jacksonville. Okay, I won't start there. But what I will tell you is, as a kid growing up, I really thought that the world was open to me, that I could do anything. In the 6th grade, I was voted most likely to succeed. And of course, I had no idea what that meant, but I've always been very driven. I have always had a focus, mostly. I mean, I do have that ADD thing. There goes a rabbit once in a while. But I was just always very driven. And I always felt like I had to perform for acceptance. And I don't know if anybody in your audience has ever felt that, but when you feel like you have to perform for acceptance, you carry that into your personal life and into your professional life. Mm-hmm. And when you're doing that, you're really wearing a mask. You're not being truthful and authentic to yourself. You're being what you think other people need you to be or what you perceive other people need you to be. And that's not really a cool space to live in. Mm-hmm. And so I learned probably in middle school, which are the awkward years for most people, I learned that you want to hang out with the people that are the most popular, because if you hang out with them, then you'll, in essence, be popular too. And that can be good or bad. For me, it was pretty good. And then I went into high school and I realized that I really wasn't like everybody else. I really looked for somebody who was a standout. Somebody, and I don't mean that in a good way. I mean, somebody who everybody else made fun of, everybody else ignored. My heart was always pulled towards that person. And I didn't know why. I mean, many, many, many years later, I now know why. But it was just really interesting to me that that's who I was drawn to. Now, before you think I'm a saint, I am absolutely positive that there were times when I completely ignored the person or made fun of them because of the group of people I was with. And so if that happens to be somebody that's listening to this podcast and they're like, I remember you as Teresa Hughes and you did this to me, I, from the bottom of my heart, am sorry and I apologize. But I just think it's important for us to really do a self-confrontation. And I didn't do that because I wore a mask. I didn't do that for probably 40 years of my life. And it wasn't until the last 10, 15 years, I decided that I really don't like being somebody that I'm not. I want to be okay if I don't look the way that everybody else thinks that I should look. And I want to be okay hanging around with people that look different than everybody else. And so through the drive and determination that I had in, elementary school up to junior high and up to high school, it carried with me. I still was kind of wrestling around with what is my identity. And my identity was tethered to my performance. Mm-hmm. And so when I did really well, I've been in sales for over 30 years. When I did really well in sales and got all the accolades, I was on top of the world. Mm-hmm. So what happened when I didn't get all that and when somebody else got it? It was pretty ugly. Mm-hmm. So by realizing that a performance-driven mentality was never going to allow you to be who you really are and to accept your faults. It wasn't until I realized that it's okay to say, I don't know the answer to that. It's okay to say, tell me more, because I've never experienced that. I don't have to have all the answers, and I don't have to pretend to have all the answers. And it wasn't, I'm telling you, until in my probably late 30s, early 40s that I realized that, it's all right if you don't have all the answers, you can say it. And people connected better with me because they thought I had all the answers. From the outside, I looked like I had it all together. I had the house, I had the job, I had the husband, I had the kids, I had the car, I had the motorcycle. It looked fantastic from the outside. The inside was filthy. It was dirty. It was not authentic. It wasn't real. And so trying to live in that tension really took a toll on me. And so it took quite a while to dig myself out of that. So if there is anybody that thinks that you're never going to be able to get past your hurts in the past, I am living proof that there is a plan, and it is a good and perfect plan, and it will blow your mind when you walk through it. Does that tell you enough about me?
Yeah, that is really beautiful. And I think there's many of us, including myself, that we got a lot of self-esteem from achieving or doing well at things, because especially when you're not feeling quite so good inside, it makes you feel good to be able to perform, like you said, or achieve at that level. But and it is a wonderful thing to achieve. I'm not putting that down at all. We all want to have our goals and our dreams and achieve them, and that's really important. But not when we're basing our self-love on it.
Amen to that. Yep. I mean, I was the one, I wanted to have all of the rewards and stuff hanging on my wall just to remind myself of, look at what you've done. And it was literally 8 years ago when I moved my office and we moved into a different home, I threw all of it away. I threw every bit of it away, but I held on to those awards and those accolades as if that's what my identity was tethered to. And it doesn't do you any good, because when those things go away, and listen, it's only for the moment, right? You're only put on that pedestal for the moment, especially anybody who's in sales, this, because it is a daily, weekly, monthly drill. They forget what you did for them last month. They want to know what you're doing for them now. But I got rid of them all. And it was almost like this weight was lifted off of me. And I am who I am. The reality is that there's probably 15 to 18% of the people that I cross paths with that cannot stand me. I will never know who they are. Sometimes you do, but most of the time you don't. So when I found that out, that not everyone that you meet and cross paths with is going to like you, when I held on to that truth, because it's a truth, I thought, you know what, it doesn't matter. There's one person that I need to please. There's one person that I am here for, that I am doing the will of. And I can walk through that hard thing. I can take the ridicule. You can make fun of me, but I'm no longer the girl that walks into a room and I see two people talking in the corner and I immediately think they're talking about me. I don't know if anybody else has ever felt that, but I lived in that for a long, long time. And it's not pretty. It's not pretty.
It isn't. So, I've heard somebody say that you should always kind of love yourself first. In other words, take care of yourself and who your real person is. And then you can love other people. You can interact with other people. And when you're loving yourself first, probably you wouldn't be thinking that they're talking about you. Right. Because it wouldn't, and even if they were, it would be irrelevant.
And I think it might have been Joyce Meyer that said that what other people think about you is none of your business. Don't hold on to that. And again, for me, there's my maker, my creator is who I am responding to. He is the one that is going to direct my path, even when I get a little stubborn once in a great while.
Mhm.
he's gonna pull me back in. But there is so much freedom in knowing that you don't have to please everybody that you come into contact with, and that no is a complete sentence.
I love that. No is a complete sentence. Don't
Right.
have to say why. Just no.
Nope.
Just no.
And that's hard,
Mhm.
right? Because you usually want to give a reason, even if it's an excuse, and you might ponder over what sounds better, A or B, when I say no. You don't have to give a reason, just say no.
Mhm.
So yeah, I heard that somewhere. I can't take credit for that. I heard it somewhere, and I've stuck to it. And I always say to my girls, I'll say, let your yes be your yes and your no be your no. Don't go back and forth. If you've already committed to something better comes up that might be more fun. If you've already committed to something, that's what you need to do. That's where integrity comes in, and that's all centered around character.
Mhm.
Stuff I didn't have for a very, very long time. So it's a much nicer place to live in the truth.
So was there an event or an epiphany or something where you said, okay, I don't need these awards anymore. I am now being called to go into seminary. I mean, from sales to seminary
Crazy.
is quite opposite.
Crazy. I figured, okay, I'm going to sell for the Lord now. It doesn't work like that. That's a great question. And I would say that probably the aha moment or the epiphany came when I looked back on my life after I gave my life to Christ in a very raw moment, but I gave my life to Christ. And after looking back and reflecting on where I was to where I was that night, I could see his handprints everywhere. Now, if you would have asked me why I didn't become a Christian earlier, because I was introduced to the church, I would have told you because I didn't want to give up drinking. I didn't want to give up going out and dancing. I didn't want to give up partying. I didn't want to give up hanging out with guys I shouldn't have been hanging out with. I wanted to wear what I wanted to wear. I had this perception in my mind that everything about me that I enjoyed and the things that I enjoyed doing was going to be stripped away from me. Not to mention how I felt the next day when I did all those things that I've always wanted to do, because I usually did not feel good about myself, which is why I had to overperform to make up for where I felt I was weak in character. But the moment was, the Lord has been with me this entire time. He saved me from this, and this. And I don't know how raw you want me to be. If your audience can handle it, I can be as raw as you need me to be. But there were several things in my life that pointed back to, he was there to carry me. He was there to direct me. That gut feeling was him. It was a nudge. And so I was just finally, I was, I guess, the real moment. I was a weekend warrior when it came to hiding what I was really feeling in my misery with alcohol and cocaine. And I, being a weekend warrior, I still functioned all during the week, but come the weekend, that's what I did to get rid of the marriage that I was in, because it was not a good marriage. My kids who were sick, there was just a lot. And it wasn't until the moment where he just kind of arrested my heart and said, you don't need to do those things anymore. I'm going to take it away from you. And he did. And if there's anybody that knows anything about cocaine, there's no real intervention for it. It's not like a cold turkey kind of quit. It is something that drags on, and it was a cold turkey quit for me. So I was rescued. I mean, there was a brother, we call him Brother Bobby Buck. And he used to say, he took me from the guttermost to the uttermost.
I love that.
And that's exactly what he did. I mean, he reached down and he grabbed me, held my face in his hands and said, I love you, and I'm going to take care of you. You're not going to live like that anymore. And it was stripped away from me. So that was the pivotal moment. So now going to seminary at the age of 52, I was called. At the age of 53, I enrolled and went in. Mind you, wanted to quit 3 times in the first semester. that was an absolute calling. And I had no idea why I was being called. I had no idea what I was going to do with it. And I talked to a professor who spoke about it. And I asked him, it was Dr. Lawson. Hey, Dr. Lawson. And I said, I feel like I'm being called to go to seminary, but I have no idea why. And I don't know what for. And he said, you don't need to know. You just need to be obedient and it'll be revealed. And so it has. So that was, if there's anybody out there that wants to go to school and they think that they're beyond their school years, no, you are not. Wasn't there a woman who was 80 something who went to school?
Yes.
Yeah. So, gosh, let's open it up. Let's stop putting the cap on our abilities and our talents and our gifts. Let's let the world see who we are, because each one of us has something unique to offer. And we need to do that for other people, because there's somebody that's waiting on the other side of our obedience.
That's exactly right. And so did you find out what the reason was? I'm just curious.
All right, I'm going to pass. Next question. Okay, I'm still wrestling with that, but I will say that I truly believe that the reason that I went to school was to equip me to write my book, because there was so much discovery. There were things that I learned in our Geneagram class about my history, about my mother. I would have never have known had I not gone to school. I would have never have known. And my goodness, when I tell you that we had to write, we had to write. And so there was a lot of writing. Well, I was able to take bits and pieces of that writing to help inform my book. And then I also thought, well, maybe I need to be a preacher, because I really love encouraging people and walking through life with them, because life is messy. You might look really good right now, but I have no idea what you did to get to where you are. And if I want what you have, am I willing to do what you did to get there? Yeah. Let's tell the whole story here. But I thought that I was going to be led to preaching. Well, I had a preaching class. Do you want to know how well I did when I had my turn to preach?
How did it go?
I bombed it. I mean, I was a nervous wreck. It was pretty horrific. Yeah. So I'm not going to stop. I mean, I'm still going to speak. It just might not be preaching in that context. It'll be in a different context. And I truly feel that I'm being led to that, but it's just funny. You have to walk through the door and explore it to see if it's right or not. And if you never walk through that door, then you're going to live with regrets. And that's not a fun way to live either.
Yeah. It never hurts to just try things, right? To find the right things.
Exactly.
So
yes.
Why don't you tell us about your book? What is it called? What is it about?
Whew. Well, it's not a light read. Let me preface it with that. But it's God's story that he allowed me to live through my personal experiences. The book is called, and I think I have it back here. I don't know if you can see it. Can I hold it up?
Yes, please.
Is that okay? Because I just really think the cover is cool.
It is. I love
so
that.
It's Chasing Easy in a Life of Hard Choices, Failed Marriages, Unplanned Pregnancies, and the God Who Restores. So for those of you that are turning off your ears right now because I said the God Who Restores, for 35 years, I lived life my way, the way I wanted to, doing the things I wanted to do, and I was miserable. And then the Lord came in and swept me out, which you've already heard about. And what the book is about is my journey. And I'm going to be pretty bold here, but I had an abortion at 15. I had no idea what it was. Now, this was 37 years ago. So the crisis pregnancy centers were not really a resource back then. And if they were, I had no idea about them. I had parenting. I've got 3 children. They all survived my parenting. They're adults. So I have twins that are 23 and I have a 30-year-old. And then I had on my second marriage, so the title is failed marriages. I had 2 failed marriages. I'm married to the man that God ordained for me today, and we've been married 10 years. But my second marriage, we separated. We were on again, off again, on again, off again. And we were off at this point, and we thought that we would reconcile. And I ended up pregnant. We did not reconcile. And so at that point, and I was a new Christian, I was a baby Christian. I mean, 6 months into my walk. And I thought, why in the world, after you have chased me down all of these years, why are you doing this to me? Mm-hmm. I was mad. I put my fist up at him. I'm like, what are you doing? Well, come to find out, he knew what he was doing. But I was still really, really conflicted. I was confused. I am living on my own, supporting myself and my 3 girls, working full time. And it was super, super difficult. Mm-hmm. And I thought, there is no way that I can raise another child in this setting, in this environment. And so I went to my mom. My mother said, you just need to have an abortion. You cannot bring a baby into this. And then I went to the baby's daddy. And of course he said, well, I might as well hand over my whole paycheck to you, which was interesting because he wasn't paying any child support to begin with. But he also suggested abortion. And so I've got 2 votes for abortion. I'm scared to death. And I thought, you know what? I've got 3 kids right now. I don't need another one. And so I was really erring on that side. I scheduled the appointment. And I decided that was the best thing because it wasn't going to hurt anybody, right? It wasn't going to hurt anybody. It was a blob of tissue. I knew better. I had already gone through an abortion at 15. And they now recognize PTSD associated with it. So all of that acting out that I did with relationships, with alcohol, with drugs, all of that was part of my response to having that abortion. So anyway, I finally said, okay, I'm going to call my friend Dawn. And Dawn is a hairdresser who is the one that I invited myself to this retreat where I gave my life to Christ. The basin of her, the bottom of the cabinet where she did the wash basin, where she washed my hair, said it was a numbers, and it said every hair on your head is numbered. So it was a scripture. Mm-hmm. And I asked her about it, and she told me about it. And then there was a retreat that I saw, noticed, and I invited myself. And so I went to that. But it was through those steps and that process that said to me, okay, I need to really consider something different. It doesn't seem like I should have an abortion again. I've already got children, but I don't need another one. She was the one that I called last. And I asked her, I said, Dawn, I don't know what to do here. And she very gently suggested adoption. She said, have you ever considered adoption? Well, I'm here to tell you, I practically hung the phone up on her. I yelled, I said, what are you talking about? How can I carry? And I was a boss. I had 23 direct reports. And I thought, how in the world do you expect me to carry a child for 9 months and then show up at work and explain that I don't have a baby anymore? So, I just really pushed it away. Well, don't you know that the Lord tugged at my heart, and I was on my way to have the abortion. And part of this is in the book. But I was on my way to have the abortion, and the Lord pulled me over. Literally, Carrie Underwood, Jesus, take the wheel. Mm-hmm. He took the wheel, and I cried my eyes out. And from there, I did a U-bolt, a U-turn. For those of you that don't know what a U-bolt is, but I did a U-turn, and I headed back home having no idea what my plan was going to be. And you'll have to get the book to hear the rest of the story.
All right.
But that's what the book is about. It's really my journey with relationships, with how I felt about myself, low self-esteem, overachieving to compensate, and how God picked me up and cleaned me up and made me whole. And I want to encourage other women, and even men for that matter, that He hasn't abandoned you. He hasn't turned His back on you. There is nothing too dirty. And there's a song that I think Amy Grant sang, there's nothing too dirty that He can't clean up. So it's, though life seems hopeless, your past isn't your future, your scars can heal, and restoration is possible. our duty is to step into that.
Love
So
that.
that's what the book is about. And again, it's pretty raw, and it's gotten some great reviews. I did do a second edition release. So if you go on to Amazon, you'll see the first release there, and then you'll see the second one with the cool cover that I showed on your podcast here. But it's touching people. I'm getting some incredible feedback, and it's God's story. I mean, it's what he did for me. He'll do it for you.
Yeah. And you had, on the notes you sent me, you had an ask about sending the book to crisis centers. Why don't you talk about that?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. I would absolutely love for every crisis pregnancy center across the country to have my book in their lobby. And why do I want that? Because there's not, that I know of, another book out there that talks about the 3 options you have with an unplanned pregnancy, and somebody who has actually lived through those 3. You'll find plenty of books about abortion survivors, about abortion workers, obviously about parenting and about adoption and what that process is like. My book encompasses all 3 of those, and there are a ton of resources in the back of the book. I will also be happy to speak on any platform about my journey to help to inform other people. And it's not to judge, it's not to condemn, it's to equip and inform. I didn't have all the information when I was 15. I had no idea how it was going to impact my life, what I would think about myself later on, and why I acted the way I did and why I hid. Well, my mask is off now. And if you don't agree with my story, that's okay. You don't have to. It's my story. And I'm saying that in a very loving way. But the reality is, every single one of us has a story. And your story will touch people that my story won't touch, and vice versa. So we have to share, and we've got to be vulnerable. You know, as Brene Brown, I guess it's the largest viewed TED Talk, but her talk on vulnerability, on shame, it's very, very powerful. I've listened to it several times. I refer my clients, my financial coaching clients, to listen to it. So
it is very powerful.
Yeah.
And I know you cover some of this in your book, but let's say there's someone listening today and they're in the situation where you are. They found out that they are now pregnant. It's a surprise. And, you know, what would you tell them the first thing to do? How do they walk through or think through this?
I think that a lot of times we make decisions based on our personal preference. That's what I did. I mean, I made a decision to abort out of convenience. I didn't consider anything else. And again, I keep pushing on, the crisis pregnancy centers, there wasn't that big platform back then. So what I would tell that woman is to find a local crisis pregnancy center. They offer free counseling. They'll also do a sonogram. Most of them, if they're a medical center, they have free sonograms. There's Operation Sonogram, but make sure it's a viable pregnancy. There are women who are having and paying for abortions who do not have a viable pregnancy. And so they went through all that trauma for nothing. Really think about what is best for your child, and know that there are women who would love to be in your shoes that can't have children. And so my voice is to speak into those women who have an unplanned pregnancy to consider the loving, selfless act of adoption. Because that's what it is. It is one of the most selfless acts that you could ever do as a mom. And you are in control, because you can decide if you want an open or closed adoption. My adoption was an open adoption. I set that parameter And I decided that I want to see her grow up through pictures, and we met in person. I mean, you set that up.
Mhm.
But if there's somebody who just feels completely hopeless, I know that there are some maternity homes. Look for a maternity home, talk to somebody, reach out to me, send me an email. I would love to talk to you. Now I'm in Maryland, but that email reaches across the border.
Mhm.
So, feel free to use me, reach out to me. But you're not alone. And I want to say that only the Lord opens and closes the womb. So it's no mistake. Your pregnancy is not a mistake. Psalm 139 talks about you are fearfully and wonderfully made. He knew every single one of your days before one of them came to be. So it's no surprise to him. Consider that. Whether you're a Christian or not, just know that it was not a mistake. And if there was something that happened to you, and I'll just say rape, which is less than 1% of unplanned pregnancies, don't make the baby pay for the father's sin. It's not the baby's fault. And then the last thing that I would say is find a support group. There are people that want to love on you. There is a community of women who will pour into the women and men who have an unplanned pregnancy to speak life into them, to speak truth into them. And it's called Embrace Grace. It's out of Hurst, Texas. They are only hosted through churches, but look for a local Embrace Grace group. And for the men, it's called Legacy. So look for a legacy group, because guys, I think that your voice is often not heard. You have lost fatherhood. You may have had a girlfriend who had an abortion and they didn't ask your permission or tell you about it. You had lost fatherhood. That was a lost fatherhood opportunity. And so men struggle with it too. They just don't voice it. Does that answer the question?
That really does answer it fully, and given resources and everything. And I was thinking the same thing, what about the man in this situation? Because a lot of times, like you said, they're not even asked, the woman just makes the decision and that they don't even know that they had a child.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, the Lord in his wisdom, the book is not just my voice. So the first 9-10 chapters is my story, but there is a chapter in there from the adoptive mom who adopted my child, her journey. She went through in vitro twice, and that's not inexpensive. So her story is in there so that people can relate to that. There is a husband's story in there so that women can relate to that. We're not acting alone, ladies, when we make a decision. So I wanted there to be multiple voices so that you could be better informed and equipped. And there's also a chapter that I would tell you is a very difficult chapter. And it talks about a late-term abortion. And it's somebody's testimony there. So, we hide the reality and the truth behind it. And I don't want to do that. I stand strong in my pro-life, pro-love stance, but I don't hate those that are pro-choice. And that needs to be known. I love on them. I don't agree with them, but I love on them. There is no favoritism in heaven. So I hope that helps. I hope that the journey will help. And by getting the book into the crisis pregnancy centers, not just for the workers there, not just for the volunteers there and the staff who are equipped to talk to women, but to hear it from, a first level. Mm-hmm. I'm really hoping, and the Lord already knows whose hands this needs to go into. But I'm just really hoping that the message of hope is spread. And that's really what my journey ended with and continues. And joy, happiness is centered on happenings. Joy is something that's internal, that's not shaken.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. And that is just such valuable, I don't even know what to call it, advice, gifting that you just shared. Because,
Thank you.
yeah, just to touch the hearts of people. And because that is a really difficult situation to go through, one of the most difficult situations to go through, and a
Mhm.
huge decision.
Yeah. And the failed marriages, if there's somebody listening that says, you know what, well, I've never been married, good. Then you can put your little list down of all the things that you want in this man that you're going to think doesn't walk the earth. Like I did after 2 failed marriages, I made a list of what I wanted and I presented it to the Lord. I said, look, this dude doesn't exist, but this is what I want. And then I married Ron, and he was everything and then some. Treats me like a princess. He cherishes me. It's just a beautiful thing. So for the women who have had a really rough time in relationships, I want you to know that there is hope, that there is someone who will love you. And if there's not, and you are single, embrace that singleness, because there is also joy in that. The relationship thing, and I want to call it relationship. Let's be real about our relationships. I stayed in relationships that I know I should have left, but I stayed because I didn't want to be alone. I stayed because I didn't want to look like the one who didn't have a boyfriend. Just all these ridiculous reasons. I was young and silly. So, yeah, making different choices now.
Thank you so much. So just a personal question, what gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life?
Oh, I could get emotional on this. Knowing that I have been able to encourage someone to see their worth, to see their value, to know that they are loved beyond anything that they could ever imagine. And that your past doesn't define you. You can start fresh today. It's not too late. Doesn't matter what you've done. You can start fresh today. You can start fresh tomorrow. And I like to say it's progress. It's not perfection. So just make progress. But that my greatest joy is knowing that I have influenced and impacted somebody's life for good. That is what truly gives me joy.
Thanks. And I know that people are going to want to connect with you. So at this point, why don't you tell us, how do they connect with you? What services you have, because you do have other businesses besides your book. So why don't at this point you just tell us what services, what things you have available, where to get your book, and how to connect with you.
So the book is my ministry. And that you can go to Amazon.com. And like I said, look for the second edition. I have it on ebook, and I've been encouraged to even do an audiobook, but that might be a little while. So you've got paperback and you have the ebook available on Amazon. It'll be available on other platforms, but right now that's where I'm directing people. The same passion and drive that I have for speaking into women's lives who this book is written to, I also have on the financial wholeness and wellness side. So my business is Elite FCS, which is financial coaching services. So it's Elite Financial Coaching Services, elitefcs.com. And you can book a consultation on there. I have a passion to help people develop the skill set that they need in order to manage their personal finances well. And it's different for everyone. No one path is the same. And if you're stuck in a sea of debt right now and you don't have any way out or know of any way out, I just want to tell you it's not your fault. And you don't need to be buried in guilt and shame and continue living in that pattern. I mean, America, it's, if it feels good, do it. Doesn't matter if you're in debt, right? Well, no. But it's not your fault, because you are probably mirroring what was modeled for you growing up. And I've lived that path. I made some really stupid mistakes with money. And there is nothing better of a teacher than living it. And I wanted to quote something right there, because I don't want to forget this quote. and this is from John Maxwell. Experience is not the greatest teacher, but evaluated experience is. Evaluation transforms experience into insight. And so that's what I've done through my book, and that's what I do with my coaching. And I really call it, it's financial counseling / coaching, because 80% of what we do is behavior driven. Only 20% is knowledge. So we get into the nitty gritty behind why you're doing what you're doing. And then other than that, I host some, they're all local to Maryland, but I host some local Bible studies. And I also, with my husband, we teach Financial Peace University. So those are the things. I do have a podcast, hashtag Chasing Easy. I think that's what you're supposed to say. But you can correct me on that. And on the podcast, it's really a lot of fun because I'm interviewing people, real life, everyday people. It's very candid, it's relatable, it's raw, and it's authentic. And you can find that on Spotify and many other platforms. It's on 6 or 8 different platforms. Great. So yeah, so that's it.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today and just for being so open. And, so, like I said, the what you gave is such a treasure. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm happy to do it. I'm honored to do it. I truly am. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. So I have one last question before we complete.
Oh my goodness.
What is
you with the questions?
You're doing a great job. What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
Oh my gosh. Reflect on your perspective. So I really think that, and I've got to look at my notes because the way I wrote it down and what I'm thinking right now are different. But I know that, joy comes from doing what it is that you want to do, empowering other people to do what they want to do. But it comes down to satisfaction versus fulfillment. Satisfaction is from a very selfish perspective. Fulfillment is from an other's perspective. So if you want to be fulfilled, do things for other people. That's the best advice I can give to live the best life that you can possibly live. Now, wait a minute. It doesn't mean that you can't have your moments. Okay. And I want to real quick put a shout out to the vulnerable post that you put on Facebook. Y'all, if you haven't seen it, you need to go look at it. She was, took a little hiatus from social media. It was such a beautiful, raw and authentic post, and it touched me. So I know that it's touching the rest of your audience. Just a shout out to you to be vulnerable like that. That's real. That's real stuff. It's not a show. And so you're allowed to feel what you feel. So I love thank you for that.
Yes, thank you. And thanks for being on the show. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, thanks. God bless you.